Hey, welcome to this week's podcast. It's Wally Kerr, and if you're just getting notice of today's podcast, you're aware we haven't done one in about a month. I've got a guest with me today, Chris Doke. The last month has been a real challenge for my family because my mother almost died.
Yep.
And it was back on December 31st, and so for the entire month of January, I can't remember anything besides sitting inside hospitals and rehab centers. My mom is 92. She's still alive. Hey, we're back. The podcast is still here, and I've got a really valuable podcast for you today because, Chris, you and I, you're with Gateway Mortgage. Chris, you're our preferred lender for a reason. Give premier service and a great experience for people who need a loan.
Absolutely.
And what you bring to the table, and this is going to be just a little bit longer on our podcast. Cindy and I normally keep these versions to 10 or 12 minutes. She'll be back in a couple of weeks. Today, I want to just take about 15 minutes. You were here for our sales meeting last week, and I'm glad you came in today to do this with me because you brought a lot of value to the table for our agents.
Good.
And if my agents don't know about it, and if I didn't know about programs, I can tell you that the average consumer does not know what we're going to talk about today. Whether you're thinking about selling or buying, or it's your kids, or it's your grandkids, it's your aunt, your uncle, your best friend, what we're going to talk about today is going to add a lot of value to anyone trying to buy today who might especially be struggling with affordability.
Absolutely.
Down payments, closing costs. You've got some great stuff for us today, don't you, Chris?
Yeah, there's so much out there, and I just want to say before I get into that, what you've gone through and the way you've taken care of your mom over the last month. I know you don't like the kudos, but well done. And it's been a joy to my heart to watch you do it and to watch your team really step up for you. And so that's a culture you've created here, you and Cindy, and that doesn't just happen overnight. So well done.
I have been very humbled by thinking that business was the most important thing in life until you begin to see your mother struggle. And I have cried because I thought she was going to die where she was. And I have prayed, and I've been with her, and we've done things for her, taking her protein, helping her get liquids in her body, middle of the night. Man, it's been a humbling, but you know what, Chris? An experience that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world, understanding that family's everything. And when you put work ahead of family, there's an issue. That's a tight line for me because I'm so committed to what I do for our customers, and you are the same.
Both my mom and my dad during COVID passed within a few months of each other and didn't even know each other passed. That's a story for a different day.
We did talk about that.
Right.
Well, let's keep it. Thank you for the kudos. I pulled up a little PowerPoint just as notes today for you and me as we talk about some of these programs that people don't know about. Just real quickly, you and I talked last week. Inflation data came out. Looks like inflation is rearing its ugly head again. Tell us a little bit about what you see, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Which inflation has caused rates to scoot back up just a hair, right? And so that is something that happened last week. They got a little bit better towards the end of the week. I think the thing that is so eye-opening for me is, and I listened to you and Cindy talking about this at the turn of the year of what 2025 will be like. I think there's great opportunity for buyers. And I know that the cash flow piece of it may not look as pretty today as that buyers wish it would. But I'm telling you right now, there are some great opportunities for seller paid closing costs coupled with down payment assistance programs that allows buyers who maybe think I can't get into something absolutely be able to get into something right now before the rates come down.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. I think it's not just maybe somebody who's listening to this show. There's a lot of buyers sitting on the fence right now that really thought rates would come down, and they haven't. And inflation is a part of that. The change in administration is a part of that because there's a lot going on economically. What's true is that there are a lot of homes sitting on the market today, and we have some of those homes listed ourselves for sellers who really want to sell their home. And those sellers are willing to open up and say, I realize it's not the same market and I could help with closing costs. What do I need to do to attract this buyer to make them want to buy my home? And that presents opportunities for buyers, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And couple that with some down payment assistance opportunities, whether you're in Cleveland County or Oklahoma County or Canadian County, three counties that have great programs going on right now for assistance to take care of not only your down payment, but some closing costs as well. All the counties across Oklahoma that we're utilizing that's rolling out in the beginning of March that allows for the help of potentially someone's down payment and closing costs, and it doesn't matter what county they're in the state of
Wow.
Oklahoma.
So I want to talk right off the bat because I think it's pretty exciting. Is this thing called Topeka Turnkey,
Right.
which I had no idea what that
Yeah.
was, and I thought, wait a minute, is this only good for people in Kansas? Tell everybody some quick bullet points about the Topeka Turnkey system.
Yeah, it allows for, depending on the county that someone's purchasing in the state of Oklahoma, it allows for potentially up to $15,000 of assistance for the down payment and for closing costs. In some instances, that's enough to take care of both.
$15,000, a lot of assistance.
It's a lot. And you can do that on a conventional loan, a VA loan, FHA loan. It's forgiven after 5 years if the people live in it as their primary residence for those first 5 years. Whereas some other assistance programs that are good in the market make you pay it back no matter what. That's a huge piece. Now, this money does run out on a monthly basis. There's only so much of a pot of it, so to speak. But it's a great opportunity. I think March 3rd we can start reserving some of this money for folks. And it's called Topeka Turnkey, but really it's for lenders that participate in a handful of states: Kansas, Colorado, and then Oklahoma in particular.
Let's say I contract for a home on March 10th. I could still close in April, couldn't I? But I reserved the money in the month of March.
Yes, absolutely. As long as you go under contract, we have the credit or the income underwritten, and it meets guidelines under a certain amount. There's an income limit. Then we can get it reserved, and they can close in April, whenever.
You know what I like, Chris, is there's going to be maybe a few people listening to this podcast today that will remember just the term called bond money.
Yes.
And that's what you referred to a minute ago is the OHFA, which is the Oklahoma Housing Finance Agency,
Right.
for 20 or 30 years has offered bond money, but now the OHFA issue out of Oklahoma City, out of Oklahoma, that money that they give you up front to use, it has to be paid back when you pay off the home, right?
It does. Pay it off, refinance it, or sell it. One of those three things occur, and you do have to pay that back. And that changed, I believe, in June of 2022. It used not to be like that.
So this Topeka Turnkey money is a totally different animal because
Correct.
you don't have to pay it back as long as
Right.
you live there 5 years. Is that
That's right. Correct.
Good. How about something else to tell? Because you brought several programs to light last week, and I want to keep us moving fast.
Yep.
Help us out with a couple of more programs that might help specific home buyers.
Yeah, two others that I love right now. The Cleveland County, if they're buying in Cleveland County, they have the opportunity to get 3.5% assistance for their down payment to really take care of their down payment, or if it's a veteran, could take care of the closing costs. And that's forgiven also after 5 years if they remain in it as their primary residence. It is just for first-time home buyers mainly. That's a great program. The one that I love that we do a great deal of as well is REI, and it's a great conventional down payment assistance option. So if someone's credit's 680 plus, usually 700, they get 5% assistance on a 3% conventional loan. So they get their 3% taken
Now, wait a minute.
care of.
They only put 3% down, but they're getting 5%.
Yeah.
I thought REI made recreational equipment. What am I getting confused
You're
there,
right.
Chris?
Rural Enterprises of Oklahoma also provides assistance for down payment and closing costs. So your down payment would be taken care of plus 2% of your closing costs. It's a great loan. You do pay that back on a monthly basis, which I really like, so they don't forget about it. It actually is a little small second mortgage that they pay that back over a 10-year period.
That's very interesting, too. Any other programs that maybe our listeners would want to know about today? Everybody knows about FHA and VA and conventional and maybe rural development.
Yeah.
What about some of these homes that sellers have on the market today? Buyers are avoiding them because they just need too much updating or they need work done. There's rot on the outside of the home. It won't qualify for FHA, VA. Maybe it's a home that's just really outdated. It's got wallpaper, old light fixtures, it's got old draperies, it's got old carpet and flooring and tile that needs to be changed. Are there options available for homes that need a lot of work?
Yeah, great options out there. Renovation loans is something that's categorized or really is a characteristic of what you're just talking about, or an option of what you're just talking about. And it is a great you can do that whether it's a conventional loan, an FHA loan, a VA loan. There are options out there for people to take the things that they're wanting to renovate, and each of those programs has its own guidelines on what can be done. Bottom line is you can take those things that need to be done. If they meet the guidelines, you can roll them into the loan and do a minimum down payment on the purchase of the property combined with the renovation. So they're not out a ton of cash.
Okay, so let's say, Chris, that I go out in the marketplace and I see a home for 210, needs all this updating. I walk through, I've got my pad and paper out. I start shopping online at Home Depot.
Yep.
And I can see this home that's $210,000. Could really be worth more, but it needs about $40,000 spent on it. So tell me, just walk me through briefly how that works. If it's a home that's 210,
Yep.
and I'm going to go need the money to fix it up with, and is there going to be a first mortgage, a second mortgage? How does that
Great.
work in simplest terms?
Great question. So let's just say you go out and you have a general contractor that's going to do the work, and you get a bid for $40,000 for materials and labor and all that. And you have a contract for the house for $210,000. We take those two items and we would have an appraiser appraise it, and hopefully it would come back at $250,000 plus
Or higher.
the combination,
Okay, right.
or higher. And then depending on which loan program you are doing, let's just say on this one it's conventional, you can borrow all the way up to the loan to value max of that combined 250. So you could borrow up, if you can qualify for it, you could borrow all the way up to 97% of that. Okay, so you're
Wow.
only bringing 3% plus your closing costs. Or if it's a FHA loan, you're bringing 3.5% plus your closing costs. If it's a VA loan, it could be that it's 100% financed and all you're bringing is closing costs.
Okay. Now, the last example I want to lay out was one that I think was shocking to our agents, Chris. And it was, you said, hey, you find this old house that's really worn out, bad state of repair. It's been a rental around the OU campus. It's a $100,000 home. But if it were really fixed up and maybe you add some rooms on, maybe it could be worth $450 because it's campus area. So explain that example briefly to us.
Yeah, so you could take whatever you're buying it for, $100,000, plus what you're going to put into it, whatever that as is completed value is, whatever that value is going to be once the work is done, you can do renovation up to 75% of that number.
Money's available to loan. And definitely your mortgage company, Gateway, which is in 43 states around the nation. So Gateway's huge, and you've got a staff of how many people on your staff these days, Chris?
We have seven on our team.
It's not just you, is it?
It's not just me. No, we've got experts that cross the T's and dot the I's behind me that really make our team run and do a phenomenal job and have been in the industry for a number of years.
And somebody with really good credit and really good income and job history, those ratios, qualifying ratios, what we call debt to income ratio, DTI, those can actually be expanded out a little bit and look at factors, how much money you've got in the bank, do you keep money in savings, how good's your credit, how long you've been on the job, what's your income.
Yeah, people are definitely surprised, I think, at times when there's ability to qualify. And listen, there's the ability to qualify and there's comfort level, right? We want people to make sure to have the knowledge with what the terms are going to look like to make sure that they feel comfortable with the obligation going forward. But there's definitely expanded guidelines that allow and expanded debt to income ratios that allow people to get in for a house that maybe they didn't think they were going to be able to. Absolutely.
Sure. Great. So the goal here today is, when I sit down with people to sell their home, they're looking at options. What options do you have available for me, Wally? I heard you have this guaranteed sale program. I heard you offer to sell my home for 100% of market value or pay me the difference. That's what I like about what you're offering here is lots of different programs, something to really, wouldn't you say, without the phrase being trite, there's really something for everyone.
There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of options for folks. We didn't even touch on if you're self-employed, it's really tough at times to obtain a mortgage. And that's because your goal is to write things off, right? So that you pay less taxes.
Amen.
Well, it's hard to analyze and say, can this person actually afford the payment if we don't see any income or we see all these expenses overtake the income? We have opportunities for folks that are in that situation. It wouldn't be a conforming type loan, a conventional loan, but we have opportunities in other type of loans when someone gets into that situation that we can take care of them.
Now, if they got in, they could still go back and refinance out of that whenever all their documents are perfect.
Absolutely.
Right? That's what we love about you, your team.
Thanks.
Your service is the service I said last, but that really should come first. Right. That's what I hear from people is that your communication is great, your loan programs are great, that your team is really, really good, positive, upbeat, great to work with. Yeah. That's what our team loves about Gateway and working with you. And it's not just a sell job. There are programs available to fit just about anyone. You just got to figure out which program is best for you, including people that want to flip homes and rehab and self-employed people.
And I think that's why we do consultations, right, Wally? Like there's entities out there right now that make you think that it's not a complicated transaction, and they'll give you a pre-qualification letter if you just type in a few bits of information. And we don't want to do that. We want to give them a consultation so they know all of their options, which takes a little bit longer, right? But it's the right way to handle folks so they know everything they have the opportunity to go take advantage of.
There are a couple of very large entities that I'm not going to say the names of.
Fair enough.
That the disclosures are not necessarily made online, and there's a big asterisk up there.
Right.
And once you start digging in and finding out what fees are and terms, and it's a whole different ball game. So take the advice of me and Cindy and my team, and call Chris at 253-2276. Yes, Chris, I have that memorized.
Wow, I love that.
Because we call you so many times to help our customers out. So it's Chris Doke with Gateway Mortgage. He's my guest today on House Talk. And Cindy will be back with me in a couple of weeks. Thanks for sticking with us during a difficult family time. Thanks for your prayers and your support. And we'll be back again next week. Watch your text messages and your emails for our next show. Chris, appreciate having you on today.
Thanks so much for having me, Wally.